important group. So if you have any doubt or question, feel free to ask. We are happy to address those questions.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just joining for the first time, and
Hmm.
I just want to know. I was told from the group chat that this is the fourth section, so I don't know if you can recap from the first to the third session just for a little bit, since I'm
So
joining.
yeah. So I think this is the third session for cybersecurity and second session. Sorry, the fourth session for cybersecurity and third session for DevOps. So we will have a two consecutive sessions. One first 2 hours for cybersecurity and DevSecOps, and the next 2 hours, following 2 hours, are for DevOps. Right now, for cybersecurity, we have 8 consecutive session we are going to complete, and DevOps also 8. All 8 sessions, more or less, uh, individual topic we are going to discuss. We are going to work on individual uh, modules. If you join freshly or in the middle, you can grab the stuff. For your reference, you can watch all of those last 2 days videos, last 2 weeks videos in our website or in the YouTube channel.
Okay, what is your YouTube channel? Can you send the link to the group or something?
I did you registered in our website?
No, I did not. I just went through WhatsApp straight up. I think I seen it on Facebook and I just went straight to the link. So
Okay,
I don't
I am
think I did
sending
it.
here the kalki.com/training. Here you can find those free training, cybersecurity and DevSecOps. You can log in or register with your Google or your user ID password. And
Okay.
once you're done, uh, you will find all those previous days videos uh, inside the course content, along with all the coursework materials.
All right. Well, thank you.
Most welcome. Guys, this is not only about the about our training about the cybersecurity. If you have any questions regarding your job market, job hunting process, about the present jobs, yeah, Monisha.
Now, what do you mean about like questions about the job market?
So everybody is generalized idea that people are doing the training uh, to prepare themselves for particular job role. So either they are trying to switch from one domain to another, or they are freshly looking for job. So
Okay.
we do have two different training. One is this free training where you people can give get a high level ideas about that particular topics. And we also do have a job ready training where that is like a 2 months long, Monday to Friday, 5 days in a week, daily 2 hours or 2.5 hours, and that is like totally hands on. So the main agenda after the training, they either the students they get the job through our consulting firm, or they directly can join the job market as a C2C or W2. So we always try to, even with our free training, we always try to, if you have any doubt, because we know from our own experience during the first few years of your job hunting process or job searching process, you will have a tremendous question or so many question in your mind that how should I do, how to do. So feel free to ask those questions as well.
That is not free, right?
No, you can ask here. For mentorship, we don't do any do charge. If you have any doubt, any question, how to do the job market thing, if you have a generalized question, we're happy to help. Akshat Dubey has mentioned freshers job in cyber. Yeah, Akshay, you can find a fresher job role specifically now in cybersecurity there are more or less 10 prominent job positions or job roles are there. But one of the job role you can as a freshers can apply, that is a pen tester. I think Mr. Karthik have a better idea or better things to guide you. But in my belief, there are certain job roles that's like a DevSecOps engineer, cloud security architect, then security audits. They require little bit experience, but pen tester you can join as a freshly.
Yes. Pen testing role is something usually based on the knowledge you're having, how deep your knowledge is. Even you can get as a fresher very good package, similar to a 3 to 4 years or 5 years experience person's package also can be received based on your certifications and based on your knowledge in pen testing. Right, the more knowledgeable, better you're able to do, you can get into that component of that. At the same time, if you're someone who is looking at a development role, as a software programmer, or someone who is you already are some knowledge in operations, like how to manage the server and things and all. So for those people, having a DevSecOps knowledge will also help you. It will add more weightage to a resume to getting into job roles for that. Uh, we are seeing in current scenario. So if you are based out of India, there are a lot of opening positions open for DevOps role and DevSecOps roles also, right? So, but in those situations, you need to have both DevOps knowledge and DevSecOps knowledge but out there. But if you're someone who comes with all three components together, it will be highly favorable. So you'll have much more wider spread. So the knowledge base is very similar for all three components. There are certain base knowledge requirement that is common for all three. And so you will be able to, apply for a wide number of job roles out there. Right, it will help you out in different scenarios. And fresher role, one more thing you can look into is network security. But network security initial investment is going to be high because you need to have certain high level certifications like Palo Alto certification or Cisco cybersecurity certifications, which are at a higher level, not in terms of cost as well as knowledge required. For practicing labs and all, the cost of training is also high for them, but they are also good, right? And one more thing you can also try is SOC, but SOC, even though it's quite easy to get into SOC position initially, but at the later stage, from a career growth perspective, I'm not really keen on how good that is going to be, right? Because basically there you're handling log alerts and things and all, reacting or interacting with the forwarding the logs to the correct person to sort things out. It is cybersecurity, but it is not as you don't get your hands dirty as much as in other components, right? It's in DevOps, DevSecOps, or pen testing. On that, you're more going to work on that, right? So if you really want, start off probably pen testing, because the main advantage here in pen testing is there's a lot of free resources available out there, but very few people are taking up that. They don't know not much. So that is what we do in our main course, because a lot of the training that you see in for cybersecurity, especially for pen testing online, is that a lot of people will tell you have to get good in hacking computers and things and all. 95% of the job is not going to be related to infrastructure security, which most 90% of the courses in pen testing will teach you infrastructure security, but 90% of jobs don't do infrastructure security. Right? They're only going to do vulnerability analysis, like what we are going to talk in today's class. Most of the work that happens is from the web application security, web application pen testing, which we talk in the main course as well. That is also covered in the main course in DevSecOps. That is there, right? Because I'm telling, because I manage pen testing teams and the jobs I get, right? I've done more than 350 applications and engagements where I've tested for that. In that more than 95% is web application only, right? So most of the time, because from an infra point of view, scanners are really good nowadays. and you don't really want to hack into infrastructure level. You want to look at the pen testing level. No, so scanners are more than sufficient there. So majority of work is going to be in a web application. So you have to focus on that. Hope that answers actually. Any more questions, guys? Just to have a recap, like what we have done till now in cybersecurity in the previous sessions. I think in one of the sessions we spoke about, the first session was basically introduction to cybersecurity, where we're talking about what is a vulnerability, what is an attack, what is a breach, what is an incident, what are the different components that is going to be there. We spoke about that. In the second time, we spoke about certifications, and then we also spoke about cybersecurity firewall as well out there. What are the different setups out there? In the last session, we spoke about penetration testing as a service. From a job role perspective, what are the different components we do out there, and how do we go about what are the things that we go in that section that we saw. And in today's section, we'll talk about a very important tool called Nmap. One of the main reasons we are focusing on Nmap in today's session, especially as part of webinar, is that it is a very important tool, and especially from an interview perspective also, right? If you are someone who is going into pen testing as a role, or a fresher who is going to for any opening position in cybersecurity, there is bound to have, if you're having a 30 minutes of interview call, 5 minutes of that you're going to spend on Nmap for sure. Minimum. So sometimes it could go up to 10-15 minutes on Nmap only. Based on how comfortable you are in Nmap, people will be able to tell how good you're at cybersecurity, right? Let me know, Menon, when we can start. I'll start at that time.
I think we can start with a little recap if possible. Hello, I'm audible. Yeah.
1 second, let me start. So we have completed almost 3 weeks till now. In the first week, we just gave a brief intro to cybersecurity, right? So basically here we spoke about what do you mean by CIA, what is AAA, that is authentication, authorization, and accountability, confidentiality, integrity, and availability in this part. Sorry. In the other things which are related to what do you mean by incident, what do you mean by vulnerability, and we spoke about different things that are there. So those are the things we saw. Basically, it was a taster into cybersecurity because a lot of students who come in or people who are attending this webinar may be completely new to cybersecurity. So it will give them a basic idea for the remainder number of sessions, whatever is there, what to expect from it. And when I'm giving a particular keyword or talking about it, they don't have to wonder what it's basically about, right? In the second week, we spoke about certifications, right? So basically here certifications, we spoke about what are the different industry level certifications that are there. What do you mean by CIS? What do you mean by CISM? What is certified ethical hacker, EJPT, and OSCP? And we spoke about different certification depending on which is harder, which is easier, and for what role that particular certificate is going to be useful for. For instance, we spoke about certified ethical hacker or EJPT. That is something for an entry-level cybersecurity penetration tester. Someone who wants to get into ethical hacking and things. Those certifications are good. So someone who wants to do an advance in pen testing, right, ethical hacking. So they were looking at some of the OSCP certification, which is much more harder. The main reason is OSCP certification talks about 24-hour exam continuous. You're going to sit in front of and you're doing a live hacking exam out there, right? There is no multiple choice questions, and they will give you access to a virtual network where you have to hack 5 systems. I think 5 systems out there, depending on the scenario. You have to, once you hack them, give them a report that you have done it, then you'll be able to clear the exam on that. All right, so that is the point of it. But we also spoke about very good importance is CISSP, right? CISM. So these are two certifications we spoke why this is a something at a manager level certificate, right? So how it will help you to grow in your career to get into a manager role or someone at a chief technical officer role, CTO or CISO role. So this certification is going to help you out with those kind of scenarios out there, right? So then we also spoke about firewall, right? One of the first defenses for any system is firewall. We spoke about uncomplicated firewall, which is their D4 firewall in Ubuntu operating system, right? We saw how we are going to configure this and things, those scenarios. In the third week, that is the last week, we spoke about what is pen testing, what is vulnerability analysis. So what exactly these roles are there. As a job role, we also spoke what are the activities that you're going to do, what kind of testing, right? Kind of testing was also discussed, like black box testing where you don't get any information about the system, white box where you are given a complete all information, and gray box where you have given partial information of the system author, right? So we spoke about that. We spoke about different attack vectors and what are the things, what is the steps we do in a vulnerability analysis, what is the steps you do in PT, right? And we also saw why when you are doing a gray box testing, reconnaissance phase in one of the phases in PT does not have much of an impact out there, right? We saw all those things in this scenario, in this way, right? But last time it went on a bit deeper. The discussion after the session was a bit deeper. We were supposed to do scanners last week, which we could not do, and that we are going to do today. All right. If time is left, we'll be working on a few other components as well. Right. So let's see how things it will go. Right. So before, sorry, I is switching it out today. So any questions here for the last 3 weeks, what we have completed? Right. Okay. So let's start with today's session. Today's session is very important, right? Especially for freshers and even for seasoned people who are working in industry already and having multiple years of experience. These are some of the base things that you can do. Right. So we spoke about a very important component called vulnerability analysis, right? And penetration testing. Vulnerability analysis basically talks about identify vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities is nothing but security issues in a system. So how do you identify this? There is a vulnerability in the system order. So usually what happens is there's a large list of signatures that we're looking for any kind of an behavior based on which we can identify certain vulnerability is there or not out there, right? So what exactly is happening out there? So what happens is that for us to be able to understand a deeper understanding of here, we need to know a very important concept, a TCP IP, right? TCP and UDP protocol. This is required of that. Okay. So how do we identify there's a vulnerability or not? We need to identify using the version info, right? So version information is required. So meaning, let's say you're getting any operating system you're using or anything out there, there will be a version name assigned to that particular component out there. For instance, let's say I'm going to show you. I'm going to run a simple Kali Linux out there. So here I'm running an Apache version, right? Here I'm running an Apache version. So what I want to know if that version is safe. Just give me a second. Right. You can see here Apache version 2.4.62 is the version for this particular vulnerability. Then I would like to see, is there any vulnerability in this? Right. So I'll talk about this too. Just give me a second. See here. So there are multiple components that are coming in here. One is the CV details. This particular web page has all the list of vulnerabilities for any major software application out there. And here we could see this particular version is having for the Apache version. So if the version number is 2.4.61, there are two vulnerabilities that are there. And one of the main advantage of having this is that I will be able to know how do I hack into this application. How do I get? So for instance, I'll get something called as a exploit DB. Okay. So let's say right. So let's assume this is a particular attack. We have the explanation how to I hack this machine and complete steps are written out here. But this particular attack is only vulnerable to a particular version of the Apache version that is going to be there. Mod cluster stored XSS that is there. And sometimes we'll get the Apache version also. So here it is not there. So let me check in this. Right. So here it could telling it is all these things is vulnerable in Apache version 2.4.x. So meaning anything coming under 2.4, this server may be vulnerable for that component. Right. So now all the hacker has to do is that come here and copy this process, exactly do this and replicate and try to get the system hack out there. But for him to do this, he needs to know the version that is running in the for this particular version. Based on the version that is there, the vulnerability is going to change, right? So that is what we can see in the CV details. You can see there are so many different versions of Apache and each one of them is having many different vulnerabilities, right? Something like 2.4.17 is having 69, 72 vulnerabilities, 77 vulnerabilities that are available out there. So there are different ways of hacking this application if they're using out there. So one more thing here is that, so now for this particular vulnerability to be exist, where it will exist, it will exist only in Apache Web Service. Apache web server. Okay, let's say there's a server. I want to hack this server. I can only hack if that web server that is running is Apache and a particular version 2.4.17 is available out there. Only then I will be able to hack that particular. I can copy and paste that attack vector and see. But how do I know? How do I know this particular process is running out there? Right? Is what is the version of the web server that is running out there and things like that. For instance, by default, you will not know anything like that unless until you know. And it is not mandatory that always have to look for Apache also. I also have to look for other services that could be running out there. Something like SSH, something like FTP, it may be Telnet in some cases. What are the different versions, application services running in the server and look for that versions as do they have any vulnerability? And how do I go about that part? Okay, so that we are going to see. So before we could go further down here, we have to understand two components out here. One is TCP and one is UDP. TCP is called connection oriented this is connectionless, right? In a simple way called as this is reliable, this is unreliable. Okay, so why is that, right? And again, this is slow and this is fast, right? Does that mean that packets or the data sent in using TCP is going to go slow? Probably, and UDP will have a turbocharge and it'll go like fast, right? Nothing like that. So there's the way they approach, way they look at things is different on them, right? So what happens is that for TCP to be reliable, it needs some kind of an acknowledgement that a particular package has received there or not. You can think about, let's say when you go for an holiday, you'll get postcards out there. You can send it back to your friends or to yourself from that location, from the places you visit, right? Postcards are cheaper. The main reason is they are unreliable. There is no acknowledgement sent back to you after the letter reaches the destination, right? So in a similar way, whenever you're getting a credit card, right, whenever you receive it, you're supposed to sign it that you have received and then acknowledgement is sent back to the bank telling that the card was handed over to the customer in hand and things like that. So making it a reliable process. And that is what is the difference between the TCP and UDP. Right? So UDP is going to keep on sending the packets without caring whether the previous packet reached there or not. It is least worried about it. Right? Some cases like a voice, DNS or media like YouTube and things, they would prefer using UDP because their reliability of the data is not mandatory. Right? Because something is lost in the middle. Let's say watching a 1 minute video and for every second there's 24 frames. In that 1 minute video, you're going to have 24 into 60, right? Even if you lose 100 frames somewhere in the middle, it is not going to, affect the quality that much. It will not affect the information flows, right? Whereas in a letter, you're going to send someone a text document. If there's a paragraph missing in that due to lack of communication properly, then it will have a complete different meaning. So in those situations, we'll go with something for it. It's a TCP on that. Right. So how does TCP make sure there is an acknowledgement process that occurs? Right. So it's very simple. TCP follows something called as a three-way handshake. Okay. TCP is going to follow something called as a three-way handshake. So here, what is going to happen? Let's when say two devices are communicating. The first device which wants to communicate, A wants to communicate with B. So A will send a request telling that, hi, I want to communicate. And this is basically a sync packet out there. Right? It is going to sync packet out there. So what is going to happen for that? The B is going to reply with something called as a SYNAC packet. Okay. So SYN is telling I want to communicate, and acknowledgement is nothing but acknowledgement telling that I received this first packet. This is the first packet. It is telling I received first packet of the, send me the second packet of the. And finally, the A is also going to send an ACK for the sync packet that was received by the client. So it's a three-way handshake for that is going to happen. So now, whenever there is a communication that is happening out there, let's say packet is sent, a reply is going to come back telling that I received the packet. So this is how it goes. For every packet that is sent, there is a reply coming back, acknowledgement. And because of this, the communication is slow. Why? If there are 5 packets or even the 1,000,000 packets, it is going to send the first packet till it receives the acknowledgement. It is not going to send the second packet. Right? If no acknowledgement received, it is going to send the first packet again, once again, because it is not able to send the communication. So that is how it goes. That is what a TCP communication works on. And this happened for everything that you're doing. You're doing SSH, you're doing HTTP and everything, whatever you do, this is going to happen out there. Right? So we'll look at this. We'll look at this in a simple example. So let's assume there's one tool called Wireshark. We'll run the tool out here. This is a packet capturing tool. So anything packet going out of your network is going to be captured here. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to click on any. It is going to capture a lot of traffic. So I'm going to start the communication, just about to start. I'm going to enter that. Okay. So this is testfire.net. This is a website, wonderful website for practice purpose we use. So let's try to capture the packet on that. Okay. Website open. Let me stop this. Okay. So here you could see here, when I want to communicate for this particular website, there is an IP address associated with the website, that is 65.61.137.117, right? So what it is going to send is that it is going to send the sync packet out here. That it is going to wants to communicate with that. 1 second. One second. I think there was data already in the system. Let me redo this. Let me delete all the data. Everything. Fine. Right? So the website is open and we can see the proper flow of communication out here. Before the application connects to the server, there's a DNS request sent to the DNS server asking for an IP address for something called as a testfire.net website. So there is a response for that. This is going to tell what is the IP address for that particular website, right? The answer for this particular query testfire.net is 65.61.137.117, right? So once that is received, the TCP three-way handshake, you can see here, there's a sync packet, SYNAC packet and ACK packet. So before any communication take place with the server, there is always a SYNAC and ACK packet that is always going to be there. Only after that, you can see that HTTP communication is going to start. So this is what is going to happen out there. Okay. And always you can see the port number also here that is going to be associated with that part. So now we saw what is a TCP and we saw what is an UDP packet out there. In a UDP packet here, the first packet that is going from here, what DNS, it is nothing but an UDP packet. You can see here, user datagram protocol, that is UDP, right? DNS request is always UDP, right? And you can see there is no SYNAC or communication. It is there. It just sends two requests and receives two requests. There is no acknowledgement or anything going in and out of the system. But that is not the case for TCP. All right. For every communication that is happening, there is a SYNAC packet coming, acknowledgement packet coming out. That is for sure. So now we saw the difference between TCP and how TCP is secure. But there's one more thing that is very much important out here, right? You remember, I need to check whether it is running Apache, right? And things and all. How do I know where is Apache is running out, right? So the TCP layer, it has something called as a port number. Okay. So for instance, let's assume there's a server, right? And there's a client. So they're running HTTP, that is a web server. They're running SSH, they're running FTP, they're running SMTP, all right? And this server is actually giving all those things, HTTP, SSH, FTP, and SMTP. Everything is there that is running in those system. Let's say when a packet comes from the client to the server, how does the server know this packet should go to HTTP or SSH, FTP or SMTP? Which service, which port number, sorry, which service I'm supposed to give this packet? How does it know? To understand, to make this process, what happens is that there's something called as a port numbers assigned to that port. Okay, so for instance, there will be default port numbers. For HTTP, port number is 18. For SSH, port number is 22. For FTP, 21 and 20 is there. And the SMTP, I don't remember, I think 1310, something like that, 445 or something. All right, so for HTTPS, it is 443. All right. So if the packet is coming with port number 80, it knows I need to send it to HTTP protocol. But if the packet is coming with port number 22, it means it should go to SSH and things like that. So this is what the process goes on. So now for me, I need to know multiple things for me to hack a website or anything. There is a lot of information that is required for me before I could pen test or try to get into that machine on there, right? So first of all, I need to know if device is on or off, right? That is the, then I need to know what services are running, right? How do I check this? I'll check for ports which are open on there. So based on the port, I will be able to tell what service is running. If port 80 is open, then I'll tell HTTP may be running out there. And along with this information, I will need the version information of that software that is running on the particular port. Okay, so that is how we are supposed to get this information. These are the different stages that I need to know. Okay, so how do I go about this process is basically that is we'll be looking into that part. Okay, just give me a second. I'm just having some issue with my system. Let me just do a quick restart of my system. It's very slow. I'll just give me 2 minutes. I'll look back.
think Mr. Karthik has some network issue. Just wait for 1 or 2 minutes, please. Akash, for your question, can you get the notes? All the notes are already published in our website. Just complete the registration. It is free, and you will have all the recording, all the class notes, all the presentation, PPT, Word documents, notes, files for download uh, in one place. Yeah, yeah, he's joining in.
Some issue with it's really hot. Laptop is getting hot as well because of it. So let's get back. So we spoke about what are the different components that is required for us to pen test. We spoke about if the device is up or down, that is required out there, right? And second component we need to know is the port numbers, ports that are open. We need to know about this. And third component is going to be the service running. And fourth is going to be the version. So how do we know all of this? Using Nmap, we're going to look into that, right? Nmap is a very old tool that has been using for a very long time. And one of the main tools that are there. Using it is very easy. All you have to do is Nmap and the IP address. Okay. Or the domain name you have to specify out there. And this will be able to do this post. What this will happen is that it is going to do a default scan for you. Okay. So what happens in a default scan? So multiple things it is going to do. If you remember, there's a command called ping command. This is going to be run by the Nmap. So this is basically used for post discovery. Right, it will check whether the device is available or not. It will run both DNS, that is reverse lookup and forward lookup, meaning from an IP address, it can get domain name. Okay. At the same time, if you're given a domain name, it can going to get the IP address of it. Okay. That is going to do that. And then it is going to scan top 1000 ports. Okay. So if you remember, by default, 2024 ports are assigned for services. And even after that, there are certain ports that has been a registered ports for certain applications that are there. So for instance, I think 3306 is something used for MySQL services out there. Whenever it is running out there, it uses particular port number, right? So if that particular port is open, it means that is running in MySQL port number. So similarly, there are many different services that are running out there, which we don't or no, also it may be existing. So top 1000 ports, it is not like going from port number 1 to 1000. No, it is like there are so many ports that are there. It is going to take a list of top 1000 ports in that, and then it's going to do the activity on post part, right? So that is what is going to happen from a deeper port scan perspective. For instance, for our understanding today, what we are going to do is that for the lab, we are going to use two machines, two VMs to be precise. Please don't run Nmap scan on network or on devices which you don't have permission or don't have access for that. It is a criminal offense if you do that part. Network mapping of a network or a device is a criminal offense if you are doing it without the organization's confirmation, written consent out there for that. So that is reason for practice purpose, we always set up labs in a virtual environment. So here the virtual environment, we are having two machines. One is Kali VM and one is something called as a BWAP machine, right? This is a vulnerable machine which we can practice on. So what we are going to do is that we are going to use Nmap on Kali machine. This is for attacking the victim. This is the burp suit out there, right? And we'll see what are the different things that we can do out here. So based on that, we can work on the scenarios. Okay. So any questions till now? What we have done? Any questions till now? Okay. So we are using this particular VMware workstation for doing the labs and having two. So we're using two machines out here, and one is the victim machine here. So for us to know, let's identify the IP address that belongs to this machine, right? And here you could see the IP address is 192.168.178 for not 146. So we are going to do our attack this machine from the Kali machine that is going to be there. So let me running the command is very simple. Nmap by default 192. One 192.168.178.146. So this is the IP address that is belonging to the my victim machine. So that is just run the basic scan. And you could see here, it ran a very fast scan and it is telling also the other things that is what we spoke about earlier, right? It is telling total number of ports scanned is 1000 and there are, 17 services that are running out there. And it saw that out of 1,193 ports were closed, right? So how does it know whether this particular service is running or not? How does it know whether a service is running or not is the question on that, right? So this is very much important. This tool, apart not only from an interview perspective, maybe someone who is maintaining a lot of systems out there and you want to know there are no unwanted ports that are open that could be used by hackers to get access to your system, right? And you need to be able to do the scans. But how do you know that whether the port is open or not? How does the Nmap know about that component on that, right? So usually what happens is going to do is that, let's say there are two devices. This is going to send a sync packet. Let's say if this is going to send a sync packet to port number 80 on the server, and let's say the port number 80 is open out there. So what is going to happen is that the reply is going to be there, SYNAC, right? I'm going to receive out there. But what if I send a packet to port number sync packet to port number 90, right? And there is no 90 open at all. What is going to happen? I will not get a SYNAC packet. I'm going to get something called as a reset signal is going to be given to me out there. Okay, so that is what is going to happen out there. So when I get a reset packet, I know the port is closed. It is not open. If I get a SYNAC packet, I know the port is open. So meaning there is a server running on port number 80, some kind of a server that is running on this particular port. That is happening out there that I know for sure. So this is the what is going to happen. So now when Nmap is running, telling 1000 top ports, it is actually sending 1000, right? It is sending 1000 packets to the server machine out there. And based on the response, it is telling which ports are open, which ports are closed. That is going to be there, right? So this is how the process happens in a real-time scenario. Okay. So now let's say a default port scan is always not going to be sufficient for us. It is always we need to be able to make modifications for that. Let's say I want to scan more than one device, right? Let's say if you know what is a network, right? A network ID and IP address V4, you will be able to tell that I can scan a complete network and see which devices are up and not up also. So what I can do Nmap, and instead of giving a particular IP, I'm going to give a complete network. I want the scan to be there, right? And I'm going to then do an SP, right? This is going to scan all the devices in the network and tell me what are the services that are running in those devices, right? Technically, there are 3 devices. One is my Kali Linux, Bbox, my Windows machine on which I'm running the lab. It should be able to get information for all 3 of them. So let's wait. The map, Nmap is running. So there are multiple ways we can do this. One is this way. So let it run. Okay, we'll see at the later stage. So based on it is going to take time usually, right? So usually when we want to do a TCP scan, we're going to use an option called ST. And in TCP scan, there are 2 options. One is ST and SS. So this is called as a TCP scan, and this is called as a stealth scan, right? In stealth scan and TCP, there's a difference. So what happens in a TCP scan is that whenever there is a TCP scan, a sync packet is sent, and then there's going to be a SYNAC packet in response, right? So this is more than sufficient for me to know whether the port is open. As soon as I get the SYNAC packet, I know this port is open out there. So what happens in a cell scan is that it is not going to send back an final ACK out here, but what it is going to do is that it is going to send a reset packet out. The main reason is whenever there's an ACK, that packet that reaches out there, the server will maintain a log telling that a particular IP address established connection. Okay. When there's a SYNAC three-way handshake is complete, a log is going to be generated. When I don't complete the three-way handshake, instead of sending ACK, if I send this reset packet, this log is not stored out there. And this means that an hacker will be able to know about what is happening, what ports that are there in a system without having to disclose this information out there. So that is what it is going to do in the TCP packet in sync stealth. So predominantly, this is what is going to a preferred approach. All right. So that was something which you could do at an earlier stages. Nowadays, the firewalls or IDPS systems are configured to check for this particular behavior, right? If you're getting 1,000 packet request, and if there is a SYN ACK going out, and again reset is happening, and this is happening for 1,000 packets, then it means something is wrong. Someone is trying to do the scan networks out there. So all those things will be taken into consideration, right? Your IDPS and logs will be able to identify what is happening out there. So that is why frequency of how we are doing the scans and everything plays a major role. Why the recon phase and information gathering phase are usually the most difficult phase of any pen test out there, right? It is very difficult in those situations. Okay, so now, so one more thing that you can try it out here is, right, a lot of other things you can try. So one more option is, now based on the port numbers that are there, I was able to tell port 80 is open, port 22 is open, port 443 is open, and things like that. So based on this, I can tell what services may be running out there, because this is a standardized part that's going to happen. For instance,
Mr. Karthik, sorry
yes,
to interrupt. I think we can stop today's session because due to
yes,
daylight saving and without we forgot to let people know a little bit earlier. So
oh,
because in map the session we don't want to miss that our those students are joining last couple of weeks.
no problem.
So because of the time issue, few people, many people's, uh, you know, they are not well informed.
Yeah, no
So
problem.
is it okay if we can start from next week for the nmap?
Sure, sure, no problem. Not an issue. That's not a problem. We can do that part.
Uh, Guys, sorry for that, but you can see because of we don't have today's those students are joining for last couple of weeks due to daily daylight savings. Few countries their times change, our training time change, but rest of the countries, especially from India and Africa, their time is still they are following the previous old time. So give us a 1 week time. Let us figure it out and let us inform the group. So from next week we can have the students that really want to know, because the main agenda of the classes is to set up or spread the awareness. We are not getting any benefits from these free classes until unless the students or the joinees, if they are not well aware of, right? Guys, do you have any question? Any? Are you agree with this? Okay, Lode, Prasad, RT.
Yeah, fine with it.
Okay.
So are we going to have the next session of DevOps, or maybe we will continue next week for that also, because less attendees, as you said?
Let's see if we have the people with the DevOps batch, because there are few students who only join for DevOps because they know that DevSecOps is a little bit harder for their present scenario. So they
Okay.
start with the DevOps. Let's see if the DevOps have at least 10 people minimum, we can start, or else we'll stop for today.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So yes, there is no point in canceling DevOps session right away. We will wait for its scheduled time, that is 9 p.m. India time, and then we will see how many people still join, because we have at least informed in our group, but not as a whole. Okay, so over a period of time, it is only today that we have informed of the change of the time, and maybe it was not enough time to reach so many, almost 900 members of the group. So let us wait. Uh, we will come out of the meeting right now. We will again join back at 8:45 or at 9, and see how many people can join. Is that true? Is that fine, Mr. Menon?
That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Okay, then. Thank you. We'll join at 9.
Okay, sure, sure.